Want to take a few minutes right now and go over a hunt I had and just show y'all a look on a map with Onyx on how I got this property and how I got this property designed to hunt and set up a few stand sites and how it's led to success for me on a hunt. Hope everybody's hunting season's off to a good start and everybody's having success, at least seeing deer or enjoying your time in the woods. Started off this summer watching this piece of property with a big group of deer in an ag field every evening, and I was able to get access to a little amount of acreage, about 300 or 400 yards off that field. And from having that property, I felt like I would be able to get those deer over to the land I was able to at least to hunt and maybe lead to success this fall. So on the map right here in this area is where I was able to see all the deer this fall. The summer was where I had the deer, and this property I was able to get, the property line goes about through here, and this is a big creek ditch that runs through here, and my property goes from this ditch here, runs and across, and I got a little bit of hardwoods right here, and the rest of it's just pines that you can see, short planted pines here with some bedding area back over here, and then some hardwoods that are off the property between the creek and the ag field here. It's just a row of hardwoods and some big planted pines that the deer come out of into the ag field every night. First thing I want to key on is kind of entry exit routes into your stands, which I think a lot of people may overlook, but it's a big aspect of getting in the woods without being detected by the deer and being able to get out of your stand without spooking deer. And when I first looked at this property, I was kind of worried it was going to be hard to do with these short pines. You can't really move around in them much, but I was able to find 2 road beds on the property that I can use for access and a creek ditch on the other side that I can slip down the side of the creek without the deer being able to see me enter and leave. You can see there's a road bed entering here, a road bed entering here, and this is the creek drainage here. So I've got one spot I hunt here, another spot here, and one here kind of spread out through the property. And to get into this spot, all you have to do is come in off the road, park somewhere in here, slip down the road, step off about 40 yards into the woods, and you stand. And then the deer don't have much way to detect you coming in here because they bed off in these pines on the other side of the creek, and they bed in this short marsh looking area you can see here. And so you're able to get into the stand without being seen as long as you get there before the deer arrive, and you can slip out after dark. Just over here, this is all, my property runs right up through here, then through the ditch up to there. So I can slip right down the creek ditch, get into my stand. This is just a spot I climb in the hardwoods and watch these hardwoods crossings that are coming. It's a big creek crossing here going out to the ag field. So you can watch it here. Then when you climb down, you can just get down to the edge of the creek, slip down the creek where you got thicket between you and the creek without the deer over in the thicket being able to see you. And that's a big aspect of being able to get in and out of your stands without being seen. Because if every time you go in you're spooking deer and every time you leave you're spooking deer, you're not going to have much success with the deer staying on your property because eventually they're just going to leave from a pressure standpoint. And next thing I kind of want to look at is bedding areas. A big key to being able to keep deer on your property or around your property is bedding areas. And when looking at this property, right around this stand I got here, everything kind of through there and back through this area is a big swamp that comes off of this creek ditch. And deer bed all out anywhere through this whole area here. So I got bedding area right near this stand here, which helps seeing a lot of deer out of this spot. This stand here, you kind of got the same situation, a little thicket in the middle of the property here, where the deer will come, bed right there, slip into this stand. And this area here is just open hardwoods where you can catch deer leaving. In the mornings, you catch deer leaving the ag fields, or in the evenings, you can catch them going to the ag fields. And other than that, they also feed on acreage out in these hardwoods. So I've got 3 good spots I can get in and out of with no problem spooking deer. And also, going for wind direction, this stand here, you can usually get pretty good wind. Northwest wind blows right out back towards the roadbed. So when you go in, as long as you have this wind going back the way you walked in, should be a perfect wind because you got no wind going into the bedding area or from the other direction towards the creek where they cross and come to the stand. So it's a big aspect is you always want to make sure you got a good wind, because if your wind's wrong, you pretty much can You can do all the scent control you want, but with a bad wind, you're going to risk spooking deer, which is never what you want to do from any spot. So from here, I'm wanting a wind coming back down the road, not into all this bedding area here. As long as the wind's coming down the road, it should be a good spot to hunt here. Same kind of wind here. It's a northwest wind stand to north. Winds coming down through the road or back towards the other stand here, where deer can come out of this bedding area from across the creek. This stand here, you can hunt on a different wind. It's more of a north wind, and the wind's coming back towards the road or the ag field. So then you're catching deer coming all off the property from across the creek. They generally come from the other side of the creek out of the pines, or you can catch deer leaving the ag field coming out this way. And also, just with the summer patterns, when I watched deer all summer on this property, I knew there was going to be a lot of deer on it because it was a big herd of deer throughout all summer staying in this field. So I knew they had to bed on my property. And if I get access to this property, I knew I was going to have a lot of deer or be able to attract deer to it with whatever I could put out legally. And so all the deer that I was watching all summer now are bedding on my property, either in this thicket here or in these planted pines here in the thicket here. So I've been holding a lot of deer on this property just from being able to watch deer all summer. So it's important to key on deer summer patterns and go from there to see where you think the deer will be in the fall. And another thing, I'm holding a lot of does on the property right now. If you can find a spot where you can hold does, it's about a guarantee you'll have bucks on you or near you during the fall. So that's the big aspect around October, November areas, hunt where the does are. And if you can keep does on your property, you should have success killing some good bucks come rut or late rut area. Another thing is just stay off and not pressure your stand so much as you can. It's a small parcel of property I got here. So I know I can't hunt this place too much to pressure it, but being able to have these perfect entry and exit routes and know the wind I need to be hunting can lead to success and lead to me being able to hunt the place a good bit, because I know coming up and out these roads that I got in marked on Onyx going in, as long as I just stay on those three stands and those three patterns and don't walk out of the property a lot to pressure the deer with knowing there's human activity on the property should lead to a lot more success this fall. And that's the main thing too, just stay in your stands and on your entry exit routes, and don't just go exploring, walking around, looking through your property throughout the season, because the more human activity you can put on the properties, the more pressure the deer will be, either going nocturnal or leaving your property. So it's a success I had on a hunt. I was sitting in these hardwoods here, went down the creek, found me a good poplar tree to climb, climbed up in here, and it was about, I knew I had a lot of does come this spot, and I was trying to harvest a doe before the rut or pre-rut got in. And it was about 45 minutes before dark. I had two does from across the creek here into my stand. Then I had two more does come from the ag field this direction. So after those other two does came in there, all four does ended up meeting about 60 yards from me and feeding on some natural vegetation, eating some muscadines out here not too far off the creek. And eventually, after about 10 minutes of them feeding in there, they worked their way towards my stand where I've been feeding them. Came about 20 yards from me and took a few minutes, but eventually the big doe turned and gave me a good broadside shot, 20 yards. I made a perfect heart shot on her. She ran about 125 yards, and I recovered her and was able to get her out of there, kill a nice doe, and right for about a month before the rut was coming in to help level out the buck-doe ratio in that area. And sum up that hunt, pretty much I've been watching does on the camera in that spot for over a month, so I knew it should be about a guarantee to be able to go in there and harvest a doe. Pretty much that was due to knowing there was no pressure in those woods or that area. And going into a month into hunting season, nobody had hunted in there. Should have been about 100% chance that I was going to see deer, which I did. And that just proves that not pressuring spots and leaving some spots unhunted, so you know that when you're wanting to kill a doe or where you got a buck and if the wind's not right or you don't have a good way to get in and out where he's bedding, if you wait and only hunt on the right time when you know nobody's been in there and you know you got a right wind, it should lead to success for you. To conclude this video, I hope you can learn, if you're trying to set up a new property or just looking at hunting new stands, to know to key on entry exit routes, watching the wind, and just looking for natural vegetation or monitoring deer on your cameras to know to Only hunt when the wind's right, when you got a good way in and out of your spot, and when you got deer coming consistently in the daytime. Hope you're having a good hunting season. This video may help you eventually when trying to look at a new property or new stand setups on your property.